I have with me in the studio journalist Dario Odufowoko and lawyer and public affairs analyst Jide Ologun. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Good morning.
All right, so let's look at the newspapers this morning. And of course, we'll start with the blueprint. It says here, border closure. Obasanjo backs Buhari, urges Benin Republic to behave. Federal government's action presents opportunities for Greek investments. That's according to the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo. And the Daily Trust is still talking about the border closure. Fuel ban takes toll on border communities. Black marketers, smugglers having failed day. That's in the Daily Trust. Daily Times says here, while federal government can't put exact date on Ajaokuta Steel Company's takeoff, that's according to the minister, says President Buhari has given full support to Steel Ministry to continue negotiations between Nigeria and Russia. The Vanguard is still talking about the border closure. Obasanjo backs Buhari, asks Benin to mend its ways. Nigeria too big to be threatened by Benin, says Professor Lumumba, ex-Kenyan anti-graft czar, says borders can be open without being porous. The Guardian says Senate suspends NDDC budget, demands board's inauguration. Why forensic audit is crucial by Akpabio. Lawmakers may pass appropriation bill next week. The News Direct says PPP, federal government approves a 400,000 cylinder manufacturing plant in Bayelsa. 160,000 LPG empty jetty in Delta as NLPGA applauds federal government's policy on 30% infrastructure cost reduction. So we will stick with the story in the Vanguard newspaper on the border closure. Obasanjo backs Buhari, asks Benin to mend its ways. Nigeria too big to be threatened by Benin, says Professor Lumumba, ex-Kenyan anti-graft czar, and says borders can be open without being porous. First of all, the ex-president is backing President Buhari on the border closure issue. What's your take?
I mean, it's a good one. He's been president. I recall his effort. He understands the issue, especially between Nigeria and Benin.
Yeah.
When it comes to this porous border and what have you. So if he's now coming out to tell Benin to behave, he saw it when he was president. He understands the fact that unless and until Benin cooperates with Nigeria in the area of ensuring that smuggling activities is taken to the lowest ebb, it will be difficult for us as a country to achieve total eradication of smuggling. If you go to Benin Republic, the majority of people who import rice into Benin with the sole intention of smuggling it into Nigeria are not Beninois, they are Nigerians. The majority of those who goes there to open warehouses, import spare parts.
Import cars.
Vehicle spare parts and the likes, with the sole intention of smuggling into Nigeria are also Nigerians. But what has Benin done? Benin as a country or its authorities or some forces within Benin has only provided the platform for crime to thrive, for these criminals to have field days. Because where you have the Nigerian officials ready to combat smugglers and their Beninois counterparts assisting, this synergy will help reduce this thing. And also, talking about tariffs, where you have your neighbor as a country willing and ready to go very, very lower and to offer tariffs that are far below the international acceptable standard, you will have issues as a country. These are areas the former president must have seen. These are areas the authorities in Benin must look into, cooperate with Nigeria to end the menace that smuggling has become. Not only in the area of rice and cars, and there are many other things being smuggled.
All right.
And the issue of standard is also key. If Benin will not help us to ensure that what Nigerians will consume is of acceptable standard, the Nigerian government will have no choice than to protect its own citizenry. And that's one of the things that is being done now.
All right, Barrister, talking about standards now, the Africa Free Trade Agreement ensures free movement of goods. How do we ensure standards within the West African sub-region?
You see, I must say that it is not the responsibility of Benin Republic or Niger Republic to secure Nigeria. You see, the same ocean that links Benin links Nigeria. So if there are infrastructures and software of enabling businesses that Benin has put in place to make Benin more attractive, we can replicate that in Nigeria. I know we have the ports and we can fine-tune our system. And talking about standard, if you don't position yourself to be a giant in the marketplace, your country becomes a dumping ground. So I want to see Nigeria take maximum advantage of our market value. 200 million people. You see the Chinese coming in here, they fix our airports, they even bring money in, and we may be going into another slavery of the future. You see, and we are talking about the Ajaokuta rolling steel mill, a project that started as far back as 1979. We are discussing with Russia. When it comes to Medicare, we are discussing with the UK. When it comes to education, we are discussing with America. So when are we going to stand? And that is why I tie myself with the fact that you need to take steps to begin to redress the mistakes you have made. But we need to see more of empowering the local community. So what are we doing to the ports in Nigeria? What are we doing to the customs to make sure that importers find it easy? If not, we will still be throwing our businesses to smugglers, because these guys, they have their different cadres. We have the high profile who will beat every obstruction, and we are reading about them to smuggle the products and everything.
Open.
So
you can bring in your
it
legal
is
goods
your
through
responsibility
To even add to that,
to
sorry,
secure
sir.
yourself.
The idea, this narrative of with infrastructures are not here, and that's why people go elsewhere. It's not really true.
Why?
I did a story
What do you think
recently
so?
on the ports in Benin. You will discover that the gridlock out of their own ports takes almost the same, if not longer, days to get out of. Because we sit here and, you know, we just want to paint a picture of it's rosy out there, that's how they go there. It's really not. They spend more days, as many days, let me say as many days, if not more, to get their goods out of that. Yet they want to bear that. They want to manage that situation. What we should find out is, what are they being offered over there for them to ignore bringing their goods in here? Two things make it attractive to them. The ridiculously low offers that are not up to internationally acceptable standards. One, which Nigeria, recently about 7 or 6 years ago, Nigeria was sanctioned by international tariff organizations for going below certain. Will Benin also be sanctioned the same way, or there is always this consideration that it's a smaller country, it's a growing economy? Nigeria's neighbors has not been fair on us, because you also look at a situation where people have the intention that if I get it into Benin, cheaper,
it's easier to come into
it's
Nigeria.
easier to smuggle it into Nigeria. Check the roads linking Benin to Nigeria. Go and check the Benin part of the road, Benin portion of this road through Idiroko. You see how terrible it is. Yet, some businessmen will prefer to go through those because they know that with criminal-minded Nigerian custom officials, they can beat the system and get away with it.
But the reason
So we are back to that platform.
Yes.
Can we bring accountability? I have challenged the Nigerian customs. They should come out and tell the world that they are not corrupt. It's part of the consideration. A businessman is in business for business. You see, and even plants gravitate towards sunshine. So you need to find out what is making it attractive. It's like a young man who is married and you are now shorting, you're going to negotiate with somebody who is chasing your wife.
It means
let's enable businesses in this country.
It's not as attractive as smuggling your goods in.
The same way
that's what I want to talk about, that if you have corrupt custom officials who are ready to take some personal gratification and let you in. If you don't have criminal-minded businessmen who will go through them, soon the custom officials will know there is no business for them. First, there must be a change in the orientation of the average Nigerian. Be you a custom officer, be you a businessman, that we are doing more harm to our country with these practices. Why will I, as a Nigerian, go to Benin, open a warehouse, bring in rice, stock it there, only to smuggle it into my own country? I make money for another country and deplete the resources of my own country. It does not make sense if you think as an average Nigerian. But where you think as somebody who does not care, you as a custom official will collect bribe and let in goods that shouldn't go. Look at the clamp down on car sellers now.
Yes.
If every car seller knows that even if I smuggle it in, it's already in my mat, they can still clamp down on me. You see that the zeal, the desire to go through that back door will reduce.
All right.
If government sees it through, if we don't waste all this effort and still go back to square one,
okay,
it's a good policy.
Okay.
It's a very good policy.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for talking to us on this.
It's a pleasure.
Well, it's time to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. I have with me in the studio a journalist, Dari Odufowokon, and a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Jide Ologun. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on TVC Breakfast this morning. All right, we head straight to the papers, and I begin with the blueprint. Border closure. Obasanjo backs Buhari, urges Benin Republic to behave. Federal government's action presents opportunities for agric investments. And to the front page of the Daily Trust, fuel ban takes toll on border communities. Black marketers, smugglers having field day. And on the front page of the Daily Times, why federal government can't put exact date on Ajaokuta Steel Company's takeoff. Minister says President Buhari has given full support to Steel Ministry to continue negotiations between Nigeria and Russia. To the front page of the Vanguard, border closure, Obasanjo backs Buhari, asks Benin to mend its ways. Nigeria too big to be threatened by Benin, says Professor Lumumba, ex-Kenyan anti-graft czar. Says the border can be opened without being porous. And to the front page of The Guardian, Senate suspends NDDC budgets, demands boards on inauguration. Why forensic audit is crucial by Akpabio. Lawmakers may pass the appropriation bill next week. And finally, on the front page of News Direct, PPP, federal government approves 400,000 cylinder manufacturing plant in Bayelsa, 160,000 LPG empty jetty in Delta, as NLPGA applauds federal government's policies on 30% infrastructure cost reduction. All right, gentlemen, we'll be looking at the story on most of the newspapers this morning, and it has to do with the border closure. We'll look at it from the front page of the Daily Trust, and because the federal government has been talking about gains being made, and the question has arisen: are we really making gains if we are saying that black marketers and smugglers are still having a field day? We know that there was a ban on the supply of petroleum products to some communities around the border, but then we see that, according to reports, black marketers are still having a field day, and as reports have said, smugglers as well. I'll start with you, Barrister.
You know, the claim that we are making gains probably is coming from the government.
It is coming from the government.
Emphasis on the revenue that the customs claims to be making. But when you look at the larger society, it's been quite tough. You know, the inflation rose to the highest point since May this year, just this month we are. And we also have the report that smugglers, the high-profile smugglers, are having a field day. And we predicted this, that even though the closure of the border is a sensible thing to do, if it becomes necessary, how you manage it is quite important. And President Olusegun Obasanjo has also, you know, reckoned with it that Benin Republic should try and adjust, not being a dumping ground, and now pumping this into Nigeria. But my advice is to the Nigerian government: why don't you fine-tune your own procedure? Why should the processes of importing through Benin Republic be more friendly than that of Nigeria? Because right now, we are dealing with a tangible, you know, land border closure.
Is that what is at the root of this dumping?
The claims we have is that insecurity,
yes,
proliferation of ammunition into our country. That means we have failed to secure our borders. We have the customs, we have the immigrations. And Mulumba is also telling us that we may not necessarily shut the borders to control our borders. And you heard also that the car dealers who have their shops shut down are saying that the customs officials also are culpable in this practice. So why don't we create an enabling business environment? Why don't we make the agencies that are expected to manage our borders accountable? It's as if they are not accountable, because as we speak, we still report incidents of smuggling.
All right.
So where do we go from here?
So
and there is increased hardship in the land. So, and we are claiming that we want to develop the local economic capacity. How much have we done with that? So let's focus on building capacity internally.
All right, let's bring Dari in now, because most people have also said the statement that Barrister just made, indictment of that this is an indictment of on the customs not being able to meet up to what they are supposed to do. Is this a capacity problem, or it is the fact that we are not holding them accountable, like he mentioned?
Well, capacity problem, maybe yes. We are not holding them accountable, possibly. But I would say that has always been the complaints. Now that efforts are being made to address these complaints, I don't see why we should still continue to complain. How do I mean?
Yes.
If we agree that we have not been able to police our borders, and that led to the economic problems we had with vis-a-vis importing, not paying duties, and smuggling. Then the government seemed to have looked inward and said, okay, let us see where the shoe pinches. And as a first step approach to solving this very big problem, the border was closed. And since we closed the border, we've been able to see the increase in revenue generation to the government, undeniably. Now we talk about the pains on the people. I would say no pains, no gains. What is important to me and to a lot of people observing what is going on is what will we get out of this as a nation at the end of the day? If we end up where we started from, after all this, too bad for us as a country. But if the government continues this way, and at the end of the day, we're able to whip into order our neighbors who have been feeding fat on our own misfortune. Somebody from Ghana, a former president, was advising us on how to go about adjusting our problems. Then from Kenya came another. We probably don't need those advices.
We don't?
We don't, for now.
Have we taken the steps that...
we have decided to...
If we have taken the step, do you think they would have been making this...
We have taken those steps they are suggesting, that we should not close borders. Our borders have remained open for donkey years. Now, we have decided...
But they are saying that our borders can be open and not be porous.
But we decided that we want to close it and see how to solve our problems. How is that anybody's problem?
Are we taking the right steps to solve that problem?
Yes, for now, I agree with the idea of closing it. But I'll tell you, those who are talking from outside the country will speak from their own angle. Don't forget that in 2003 or 2004, I can't remember, President Olusegun Obasanjo threatened to close the border.
Yes.
The president of Benin then, Soglo, met with him somewhere around Badagry.
Yes.
And they looked, and terms were given.
Absolutely.
To these our neighbors. Please, it is, what is happening is not just about porous borders. Obvious economic sabotage on our own economy by our neighbors. Where your neighbor intentionally makes certain things easier, simply below internationally acceptable standards. We've been reading about income.
So what steps should we take in that regard?
That is the step we have taken. We have closed our border.
But we are looking at opening in January.
Because by the time we'll be opening in January, we will have given terms and conditions. 1. 2, look at what is happening internally too. It's sad that some businesses are being affected. I feel for them. But I've come to realize that for us to have this larger gain, there will be some individual pains. It could just turn my way tomorrow. I will also have to bear it in the interest of the larger idea, the larger gain. Car sellers are complaining now. Let's look at this, please.
Quickly.
That their business has been affected. But they have also learned, I am sure, that it is better, safer, and more convenient for them in the long run to bring their cars in through the Nigerian...
but we understand the process.
How challenging it is. The government too will change what the problems are.
All right.
The people too will do what is proper. At the end of the day, we all
Quickly,
smile
yeah,
better.
May I suggest to that we
Quickly.
shut down the electricity supply to the Niger Republic and Benin Republic and focus on developing Nigerian capacity.
I agree with that.
All right?
right.
So, I mean, we need to develop
I
this
agree
nation.
with
We
that.
are too big to be treated like this. I agree with that. But what efforts are we making to occupy our rightful position?
That's this is one of the efforts.
But
In
we
my
are not
opinion.
managing it well. Smuggling is still going
Let-
on.
smuggling
The-
smuggling
the
will
nefarious
go
activities
on.
We are,
going
like he
on.
has said, we are taking steps.
We are taking steps.
Which is
Smuggling
most
will improve
important.
anywhere you close borders because
right.
smugglers are die-hard criminals.
All right.
Take it or leave it. Open
Gentlemen.
the border, they will smuggle.
Gentlemen, we
Close
have
the border,
to-
they will smuggle.
And
We have
please,
to leave
let's
it at this
fine-tune
point.
our processing at our
Yes.
ports.
I agree with that.
Re-energize our ports and
Absolutely.
make these points
right.
friendly for
Gentlemen,
business.
We
They are
have to
confident
leave it
they
at
won't
this
go
point.
out
No,
of their
no
way
more
to
time to
smuggle.
talk on this, but thank you for your summation on this topic.